everybody!
Evening.
Hello. What people didn't see is that while that video was playing, our mics are off and we're just kind of watching in the background. And I saw Baz was pretty much asleep until that music came on. He was like, "Oh God, we're on!" So hello, here we are.
Practicing this. That was also sorry.
You've changed.
I know.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the first in a brand new format for the Lock-In podcast. This is our 27th episode.
Wow!
But it's the first one where we're going to do this new format. Basically, what's going to happen is me and Baz are just going to give a bit of introduction, and then we're going to play a pre-recorded podcast, which is already out there on audio platforms. So you're going to see myself and Baz talking to our guest that was recorded a while ago. Can't remember when.
A couple weeks ago.
If I look a bit confused in the recording, it's because it was recorded at 10 a.m. And it's the first one the only other time we've been doing this in AM is the first one when me and Baz were still doing it in the AM. And that one is now that one's dead. That one's gone. That one's the vast majority of that has been deleted for everybody's safety.
For embarrassment purposes.
So what we're going to do is we have got an amazing guest coming up, okay? Normally I say we've got an amazing guest and hope they're going to be amazing, but obviously the benefit of this is that I know that the next 38 minutes is brilliant. Our guest is a guy called Jay Jordan, who is a private investigator who specialises in basically reuniting abducted and lost children with their parents. Which is incredible. And the stories he's got to tell on this following recorded podcast are incredible. So what's going to happen after that is we are going to bring Jay on live, and the three of us are going to have a chat. We're going to have a live Q&A. So if you've got any questions throughout, stick them in the comment section or the chat section, wherever you're watching this. We'll pick them all up. And we'll ask Jay the questions when he comes back on, when we come back on. Afterwards. So ask questions all the way through. If you are asking something that's relevant to a part of the conversation, mention that part of the conversation. Just don't go, how scary was that bit? We're not going to know which bit you're talking about. So be specific about it. And one thing I do need to say is that the editing of this is really clunky because the editing was done for audio. So you'll see people go like that. Ignore that. It's brilliant. You're going to really, really enjoy it. We're going to sit, but this is the best bit. That me and Baz never get to sit and actually watch and enjoy our own podcast. So
it's going to be weird.
We're going to grab a drink. We're going to sit back. We're going to kick back and watch it with you. So get your questions coming through, chat in the chat section, and we'll see you after we've watched this recording.
See you on the other side.
Hello,
hey.
And welcome back to the Lock-In podcast. For those that haven't been on before, the Lock-In is me and Baz in our virtual pub called the Brace of Readlings, and we are just chatting to ordinary people with extraordinary stories to tell, and we've definitely got one of those today. So, without further ado, we'll introduce Mr. Jay Jordan. Jay, how are you?
Yeah, I'm living the dream, mate. How are you?
I never know if living the dream means the opposite of living the dream, or whether it is.
100%, yeah, without a doubt. It's the dream of stress.
I'm not going to introduce you. I'm going to let you introduce yourself, okay? Because you, surprisingly enough, you know you better than I know you. So, just kind of walk me through who you are, what your background is, and how you came to set it up, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, for sure. This is like one hell of a long story.
That's fine. We've got ages, mate. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. Jay Jordan, come from UK. I joined the military when I was 16 years old. When I was in the military, I served in Northern Ireland, Kosovo, Sierra Leone, and Iraq, and then non-operational tours in Cyprus, Gibraltar, and Jordan, and the Falklands. I mean, my time in the military was only 6 years, but after I left the military, I ended up living on the streets for a bit, which kind of opened my eyes to what was actually going on around me, and to a certain extent, what was happening when it comes to veterans actually leaving the army. But luckily for me, I ended up contracting. I got a contract out for Iraq, and then I basically contracted out in the Middle East and out in Afghanistan, out in West Africa, pretty much for the last 17 years. Primarily in close protection jobs, NGOs, providing security, project management, risk management, things like this. So I got to see quite a bit around those regions for quite a while. But more importantly, I got a lot of experience from there because we was working in small teams. Sometimes we was out in the middle of nowhere working alone. You got to start to learn how to think on your toes for when things happen, and especially to look after the clients, because obviously the primary role is to keep those clients safe. What I didn't know at the time was that the next step, and everything pretty much I fell into in life, I've never planned anything, it was to fall into the child recovery industry. Now, the child recovery industry was something I'd never heard about before or anything like this. But there was a guy that I met, and I still don't remember how I met him, but I do remember I used to speak to him quite a lot on, do you remember the old MSN Messenger?
Yeah.
That's like how long ago this was. And he used to ask me for points of contact because I had quite a big network around the world anyway. It's a lot bigger than what it was now. But he'd always get in touch with me for a country that he was operating in, see if I knew somebody that could help him out and things like this. And I never really thought much of it. I was content in what I was doing. I was living a good life from being private security and private military. So I give him a point of contact, never hear anything until I needed another one. Well, at the end of 2012, he gets in touch with me and asks me personally to come out to Lebanon to help him out on a case. He was basically working on a case. A mother and a child were being held against their will by the father, the Lebanese father, who had kidnapped the children from Australia, and he was connected to Hezbollah. So I didn't really know what I was getting into, but I thought, all right. Just so happened that at the time I got injured in Afghanistan, so they sent me home on medical leave to heal. So I thought, I've got nothing else to do with my time, I may as well. So I went over there, I gave him fresh eyes on. Within that fresh eyes on period, which was about a week period, a lot of stuff happened. One of the prime things that did happen was that we went into a town. I wanted to go set up an OP and check out this house and see what we could do with this house. And where there was actually being held against their will. And he took the wrong turn in. So we ended up down this dead end. He does a 10-point turn to try to get out of here. By the time he finished his 10-point turn, a BMW pulled up and there was 4 guys jumped out of AKs and shotguns. So that was like my first introduction into the child recovery industry. And I was thinking, what am I doing here? I couldn't believe it, considering I've gone from an industry where I'm carrying weapons, I've got body armor, and I've got teams, and I've got backup systems, and we've got operations rooms and support all over the place. It was literally me and him alone in that country.
Yeah.
No one knew where we were. So we ended up getting out of that situation, and basically we got chased out of town at gunpoint. But that was my first introduction. I gave him my opinion on what he needs to do to actually make it work. Not long after that, I left country. And I didn't think anything else of it. I thought that was it. I was going to wait to go back to Afghan. About 2 weeks later, the owner of his company gets in touch with me, and the owner of his company in itself, I'd met him prior to going out on that initial, like recce, let's call it, and I didn't like him at all, and he clearly didn't like me. He was one of these blokes who thought he was like a big bad mercenary. He's never been in the military, never done anything like that, and he used to walk around giving it the big licks all the time. So I didn't think much of him, but he comes up to me and asked me to take on a case. And then me and the missus, we sat down about it. And the constant question that kept coming up was, who else is going to do it if I don't do it? And one thing that I did realize is that the standards in the industry in that period of time that I was there was terrible. Clearly the ownership of these companies is terrible. And my prime focus was to get that kid out of there. So I went over there and I took over that case. Now this is a long story short because I have a book about it. Okay. And I want everyone to buy my book, of course.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I went over there. I mean, there was so many trials and tribulations. It was unbelievable. There's elements where I got strip searched by the mafia whilst I'm standing in front of them in my underwear and I'm telling them that I need them to do something for me and asking them how much it would cost. There were times where I was being followed. I got chased a few times. There was a time where I ended up ramming a car off the road just to make sure that I could escape from a situation that I was about to fall into. A lot of surveillance went on.
Sorry, can I just just 1 second. Is this your life? Are you reading a film script right now? Because I'm a little bit.
We didn't invite you on here to pitch a new Bourne Identity film, mate.
Sorry, carry on. I'm literally like, oh my god. Sorry, carry on.
That's just the thing, though, right? People do think it sounds like a movie, but this is genuine stuff that happened.
Yeah. Sorry, carry on.
Yeah. So I ended up getting out of that situation. I realised very quickly that I couldn't organise this operation on the Lebanese side. It was way too difficult. People were not working with me. There was all about money. There was a lot of mistrust, primarily because of the religious divides in the areas that we were working in. And obviously the different factions that I was trying to talk to and try to actually get involved in it. So I decided that I lived in Cyprus. I knew Cyprus very well. I knew about all of the organizations that were in Cyprus, especially criminal organizations that had powers to do things that normal people didn't have to do. On the military side of it, I had the military plan. I knew exactly what I needed to do on that side. So I went over to Cyprus, and then I started hanging around in the marinas until the point where I actually got involved and started speaking to the mafia. And that's where the game changed massively. I met one guy. He played me around for about a week. And he ended up passing me on to another guy. And it's probably all about gauge and trust. And when he passed me to this other guy, they helped me buy a boat, which was a 6.2 meter rib. Now I don't know nothing about boats, and when I looked at a 2.2 meter rib, I'm thinking, what? I got to go 120 miles across that water on that boat, and it's like literally you just look at it, and it's an inflatable boat.
Yeah.
That's what I'm looking at, and I'm like, nah, this can't be good in any way whatsoever. That was my biggest fear at the whole thing, but they helped me rig it up. We put radar on it. We put fish finder on it for our cover story, because the cover story was weak. I got an old bootneck who, I mean, the only way to describe this guy is a real life Mad Murdoch from the A-Team. Do you remember Mad Murdoch?
Yeah.
And like this bloke was like pucker gen nuts, but yet solid all the way through it all. So yeah, he's the one who was jumping on this boat and going across that water. So he would operate on the land side. But the cover story was so weak, it was unbelievable. His cover story was that he was on the piss in Cyprus, which doesn't surprise me for him because of the person that he is, and that his mates bet him that he couldn't make it across the water in this boat and actually get over to Lebanon and go fishing in Lebanon. That's literally it. That was his cover story. Wow. It was so weak. So the whole plan for him was to actually get over there and basically fuck around in the water, break all of the rules as much as possible, to the point where we can get the radar operator looking at his screen and then just go, oh, fuck's sake, it's him again. And then they'd start to ignore him when he's breaking the rules, because it's becoming a pattern that he breaks the rules every single day. It went in our favor massively, and it also went against us because they ended up putting him under a curfew after 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So we had a limited time period to actually do our operation in. But at the same time, he was able to see if there's any Coast Guard vessels, any military vessels or anything like that, because all over Lebanon coast, there's so many different people that are out there. So he was running all that. I ran the land, the operation on the land. We set up an operation in a hotel, and basically from there we extracted the mother and child. Once they actually get into that hotel, get them to the boat. The plan was to get them to the boat and then get out and then go meet the mafia from Cyprus in the middle of the Mediterranean. They take us into Cyprus. The plan was solid, apart from the fact timing slipped. And then that day when it happened, because we had that curfew, originally it was supposed to happen at 11 o'clock in the morning, and it ended up happening at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So we'd lost the boat, and now we had to, it was a fuck it moment. It was literally one of those moments where you're like, fuck it, we got to go do this now. The opportunity was there. The hesitation was almost there until I thought, now we've got to do this no matter what. But we didn't have a safe house. So I ended up taking the mother and child to my fixer's house, kicked his family out of his house, locked his entire house down, sat there on the longest night of my life, because there were people peering. This is where everyone is looking for us now. People peering through this like frosted glass and stuff like that, and I'm standing there. There's no way out of this house whatsoever. If they come through the door, that's it. We're fucked. But the night went on, and then obviously all the thoughts that were in my head: will my fixer make it back? Has my fixer been caught? Will my fixer shock me out? All of this stuff was going through my head constantly. And then when it came to 1 minute past 7 in the morning, he was late as far as I was concerned. And then I'm thinking to myself, he ain't coming back. What are we going to do now? Luckily, he did come back. It was only about 4 minutes past 7, but those 4 minutes were very, very long. And then we managed to get down to the boat and then get out of them. So that was my first introduction. We get back to Cyprus. We get into the marina down in Larnaca. We waited about 5 minutes. And then from there, we literally just walked to my car, drove down to a hotel, dropped them off, and then watched that family reunite. And it was like so surreal going from all of that to that point in time. And I was exhausted anyway, like, because I don't know if you've ever been on a 6.2 meter rib going across 100 miles of ocean.
Every other day,
never realised.
I just got back from Tenerife. That was most days.
Yeah. I never realised in any way whatsoever how many muscles you have in your body until that point, because it hits every single one of them. It literally destroys it. But yeah, I watched that happen, and then and that was it. So I started working for this company.
Sorry, Jay. Was that was your first? That was your first job.
First job.
Okay,
Never ever knew anything about the industry. The only thing that got me through it was all my experience going up to that point.
Yeah.
So,
and I was quite
if I
shocked.
turned up at my first job, if I turned up at my first job and people started using the words Hezbollah and mafia, I'm pretty sure I'd have fucking run away. So, it's a testament to your morals and that you wanted to do this, and that was, but also your minerals, to use a Cockney phrase. It's
yeah.
It's that's some balls of steel. That.
Well,
I've heard about them on the news. That's bad news. I'm going home.
So my observation is like so whilst telling that story, it's like all I can think is that you're sort of staying calm really during that situation, even though it's a really tense situation. That can only just be, like you just said, from all the experience and all your training that you've done previous to that, and sort of knowing the situation that you're in. I mean, that's got to be primarily how you're able to do that, right?
Yeah, definitely. Because at the end of the day, it's like, this is why when I'm talking about the company and everything like that, having a military mind, the mentality of the military in itself, and it's not just military, it's the contracting side, because we've got the corporate side and the professional side, the client side as well. Having that in you, you have to stay calm in front of your clients if you're in Afghanistan and the shit's going down. You have to do everything else, and it doesn't matter what's going on inside your body. It doesn't matter what's going on inside your head. You have to speak to the clients as if it's a normal situation, and everything's going to be fine. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Just sit down there. We'll handle this sort of thing. And that's what's constantly going through. But everything else is just like, what? But when it comes out, it's calm.
So I'm guessing in that situation, you're able to, from experience, know pretty much what's going on in the world around you. So knowing that how you've got to react to that. So you were saying, you knew that people were searching for you. So, having to stay calm and not make a move until the right time. It's just the way you're talking about it. I'm literally thinking, I wouldn't know what to do. I'd probably just, there's panic would probably be the worst thing you could do, right?
Yeah, 100% panicking. That's it. It's like when you see it in the movies and stuff like that. Somebody goes in a rob a bank or something like that. They get away and they're driving like 100 miles an hour, drive through every traffic light, everything like this. Yeah, you're gonna get caught. If you was to go into a situation like that, which is a dangerous situation, and then come out and you're very, very calm and you just drive like a normal citizen, the chances of you getting caught, and if you've got that plan in place, the chance of you going to get caught is a lot less, due to the fact you're not committing a scene, you're not bringing the attention towards yourself. Everything that we do,
normally.
Got it. I'm gonna take notes of that myself. We had plans for that sort of stuff, but that's a way different story. It's way different story. Somebody else ended up beating us to it anyway. But everything, it has to be planned to the finest detail. At that time, with being my first job, I was continuously trying to work things out as I was going along. What would I do if this happened? What would I do if that happened? And the problem solving skills that you get from being in the military and contracting in itself, they become like right to the front. What I found and what I've developed over the years of doing this is the fact that when we're actually trying to figure out how to do something, we have to make multiple plans. Doesn't matter what it is. I have to learn a city so quickly, as if it's my own city. And there's cities out there that I know better than my own city. I don't even know how to get to the other side of the city where I'm living at the moment. But if you go take me to Lebanon or you take me to Baghdad, I know those streets like anything. But if you come to a junction, you turn left and right, I need to know exactly what happens when you turn left or right. And I need to know what could go wrong. And what I do, I create a plan to the extent of every single turning that I have to take, every single prominent point in that operation. I have to try to destroy the operation. And that's how I work inside my head. I do everything I can to make it fail, because then I make multiple plans to how to do the same thing, and then do everything I can to make every single plan fail. And I do it all very quickly, to the point where you can actually analyze what is likely to succeed in comparison to what's not. And that comes down to risk management and stuff like that as well. So when you get to that point where you've got a 97, 98, 99% probability that it's going to work, that part of the plan, this is what we're going to do. That part of the plan, figure out that one, and then so on and so forth. So it's as much as it's not, as much as there's a lot to do, it's not very time consuming because we continuously work on it all the way through and as quick as possible with every single detail.
It's a bit like that adage, isn't it? Which is plan for the worst, hope for the best kind of deal.
Oh, 100%. Yeah,
plan for
yeah.
every eventuality. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
but
like
also
to,
remember that no plan's going to go to plan.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Never.
like the idea that I'm going to ask you what so clearly, obviously, in your line of work, everything has to be planned to the minutest detail, and everything has to go to plan. You're very organised, very calm, and all that kind of. I like to think like that away from work, like when you go on holiday and stuff, you just say, "Fuck it, I'm going to wing it," and you start losing your shit when things go wrong, and there's this release of just like I'm not doing all the
100% my
organising
life.
stuff. I'm not even printing out my boarding card. Do you know what I mean?
That's exactly what I do. Seriously, outside of work, in work, I'm so organised, it's unbelievable. Outside, I mean, you should see my computer right now. It's a right mess. And I stress about it every single day, and I just go, no, I'm not dealing with it. Anything that I do, I'd literally do wing it in real life. I just can't be asked to organise anything in my own life.
As we're sitting here amazed by your story, I've got like my other thoughts are like that there's a normal guy there as well. I like to think of you sitting down like watching TV or a movie and going, bollocks that.
Yeah.
I do that. I do that. Don't ever watch a movie with me, especially when it's a war movie or something like that, because I'll be sitting there going, "Yeah, they wouldn't be able to do that. No, the police don't have those sort of assets. The police definitely wouldn't respond like that. The military wouldn't be able to fire that many rounds." There was a movie I was watching the other day, and I'm sitting there with a boy, and it was one of the Hollywood magazines, and he's just coming out with two weapons, and he's just shooting. In fact, it was for Ragnarok when he comes out with the two weapons and starts shooting everything. And I was like, "No, that wouldn't happen. He's out of ammunition before he even jumps off that fucking spaceship."
You taking notes about what he's done wrong. It's like, well, you're going to say, brief him at the end of the film.
So, Joe, I'm a massive film buff, so let me know a film that is fairly accurate because I want to go and watch it again now. So, you must see
13 hours.
Oh, okay, yes, I've seen it. Yeah.
13 hours of Benghazi. I'm telling you now, that is like, to me, that's got a lot of like meaning towards me. I think it's the most accurate depiction of private contractors working in that sort of environment. It gives the relationship between the clients, because you get clients that are complete twats, like, and they do treat us as if we're just nobodies. But then when it comes to the fact of doing the job, then they start changing their mind. They remember that for about a week, and then they just go back to being twats again. But in general, for the way that situation was, for the frustration that was involved in them not being able to get out and go into that firefight and actually help, and then for them just to make that command decision themselves, like, fuck it, we're going. And that is that fuck it moment that you always get on operations. That is definitely one of the most accurate movies I could ever think of.
I have the same moment in Aldi. Do you know what I mean? When I can't decide whether to buy pork or beef. Fuck it, I'm going with beef. That's it. Do you know what I mean?
Do you know what the worst thing is, though, right?
Same thing.
The worst thing about my entire life is that I can go and make command decisions on anything when it comes to operations and everything like that. Do you know I can't go shopping? I cannot physically go into a supermarket with a shopping list and say, right, this is going to be easy. Put that in the trolley. Because I go there and there's so much choice, and I'm sitting there going, and I'm trying to analyze what is the best type of toilet paper to buy. So I'm sitting there in front of it, and I'm just standing there, and there's like fucking 200 fucking different types of toilet paper. And I'm like, I can't fucking do this. And then I'll just walk out, I'll leave. That's it. Can't do it.
I love that because it sort of exemplifies what you do in your operations. The fact that you'll see everything that's the operation going shopping, and then look at the end of it and go, actually, like the end result isn't worth all this analysation, is it? So,
Exactly.
There's also the problem that you're banned from every local supermarket near you from abseiling down the outside and throwing a smoke bomb in before you enter.
Yeah, but I mean, I only did it twice. I don't see what the big deal is.
Same supermarket. That was your problem.
I feel like with your story, Jay, we're going to be sort of like shooting backwards and forwards in your history. Do you mind taking us back to when you first joined the military at 16? Because obviously that's not a decision at 16 you probably made was going to bring you where you were now. So what was that like?
I think primarily I didn't know what I was doing. Again, that's probably been a pattern throughout my entire life. 9 years old, I knew I wanted to join the movie, and that's primarily because I grew up on war movies, and I was like, yeah, I'll have a bit of that.
Yeah.
15 years old at Skype school and tried to join the military. I went down to the career centre and I ended up in front of one of the Marines. I don't know if it's commando or what, but it was in the Marine section. They told me to do pull-ups and I couldn't do a single pull-up. And they was like, because they knew I was Skype in school to do this. And it was like, yeah, go back to school, do a bit of training and then come back. So 16, I'd left school. I'd already started working in factories. I jumped down a career centre because that was the only thing that I wanted to do. And that was what I was dedicated for. Careers officers in school and that sort of stuff, there was always like, well, what would you do if you didn't make it into the military? I will. I'm not going to fail. I'm going into the military. That's it. So I was dedicated towards it. I went down there and obviously signed up when I was 16. Passed my selection to get in, started training. And then, to be fair, with the way that I grew up, going into the military, it wasn't that difficult. I got someone shouting. I've had that all my life. I got someone telling me to run. That was probably the hardest part, is going and getting beasted. In fact, even that, getting beasted for somebody else's mistakes, that wasn't anything unusual to me either. The discipline in itself and everything, that was fantastic for me, because it's gave me structure within my life, and it took me from being the kid that was against the world to the point where there are people around me that actually help me, because that's where the teamwork comes into it, and the discipline actually teaches you to become such a better person in itself. Without that structure, I dread to think where I would have ended up like. But it was good for me. I loved it. I loved Depot.
It's amazing. And then the
and I
next
had a
thing
bed.
the next thing you said as well, you were that you were on the streets for a bit. And I think this is quite an important thing to say, because without getting too heavy and political about it, a lot of people struggle. I know people who've left the military and they struggle to fit in because they don't have somebody to tell them what to do, to tell them where to be, to do what they lack life skills, but also it's a massive culture shock going from that kind of environment into real life. So can you just talk us through that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, when you leave the military, they don't teach you how to live. When you're in the military, you've got everything done for you. Your food's cooked for you. Your bills are paid for you. Everything is done for you. So leaving the military, it's literally hand your card in, bang, cheers, easy. There's a plane ticket if you want it. I didn't take my plane ticket initially, and then crack on. That's it. You're done. So I didn't have any family or anything like that, because I was always away from home. Never went home. Didn't have any family. I had no interest in connecting with them or anything like that. So I get back and I started off I stayed in Cyprus. I then went from Cyprus. I spent my savings to go to Italy.
Sorry, Jay. What age are you at this point in your life?
This is 22.
Yeah. So when you left,
Yeah. So I ended up going to Italy. I spent all my savings in Italy and ended up back in the UK. And I was thinking, what do I do now? My entire goal of going back to the UK was to find a job in a factory or something like that, because I knew how to do the factory walk-in and try to get a job in the factories. That wasn't happening. And then it was just a case of, where's all that support gone? Where were all of those people that were around me for the last fucking 6 years? And that was it. So I just sat down on the bench one day and I thought, I'll just stay here and start writing a book. I started writing a book, never finished that one. I had great ideas and great ambition for it, but never finished it. And basically where I was parked myself up on this bench, it was right next to a war memorial. It was in the center of this little tiny village where it's got access to the public library. So I'm going to the library, check my emails and stuff like this. And basically I was begging for enough money so I can go to a pub, which was right across the road. And then I'd go in that pub, and then all the old war veterans would talk to me about their stories. I'd talk to them about their stories. They'd buy me beers, and then I'd go back to the bench at night time. And then I'd go to the library the next day and do the same fucking routine over, and then just sit there writing. And I did that for probably a good 6 months until I got an email. And it was my old colour boy from when I was in the army. He gets in touch with me, asked me what I was up to, so I told him. And he sent me a link to a list of companies, and at the time there was only about 13 companies on this list. Now that went from 13 to hundreds of companies for Iraq. And he said, mate, he said, email those companies. He said, within a week you'll be in work and you'll be back over in Iraq. I never wanted to go to Iraq again, because when I was in Iraq it was shit the first time. But I thought, all right, yeah. And then I went from 0 to 6 figures of fucking a year. I was earning 5 figures a month, and I didn't know what the job was. I knew that they'd sent me a plane ticket. I got on the plane and went over to Iraq. Didn't know what I was doing. I hadn't got a clue. I thought, all right, yeah, I'm going to Iraq. I know how to shoot. I should be good. And that was it. And then the first journey from the airport down to the military base, which was called the Green Zone, that's where I realized, and I questioned myself, what the fuck am I doing here? Because I was watching cars get rammed off the road and all sorts everywhere. It was unbelievable. And I was just there going, But it gets to that process where you're like, oh, okay, this is what we're doing now. We'll just go with the punches, roll with the flow, and it was mad.
So the private security that you mentioned as well. So the kind of roles that you were doing there. What would it's not like what would a typical day be like?
Yeah, so there's no typical day. Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, well, I rocked up to my desk about 9, then I had a coffee. Not that sort of thing. But
pulled out the AK.
What were the sort of jobs that you did? What was the kind of typical jobs that were there?
Yeah, primarily it's close protection. So it's armed close protection, where we was working for the Corps of Engineers at the time. So they were our clients, and we would take the Corps of Engineers. This is all military and civilian personnel. And we would take them from A to B and then B to C and then back to A and make sure that they stay alive, basically. But it sounds simple, as if you're just jumping in the car and then going from A to B like a taxi driver and stuff like that. Nah, it was never simple, I tell you. There was so much planning that went into it.
It didn't sound simple to me just then.
I didn't know. That's my mind. But I mean, in those days, this was like 2004 now, so it was quite rough, especially in Baghdad. As quick as we would adapt our tactics to Al Qaeda would adapt their tactics to us. So we would set certain ways of doing things to stop being attacked by an IED or losing too many people during an IED. And it got to the point where their IEDs weren't even affecting us apart from destroying our vehicles. So they adapted and started moving to EFPs, which is basically an anti-tank, a handmade, homemade anti-tank device, which could go through our armor like a hot knife through butter. So then we had to readapt to that, and then they started using PIRs, which is the lasers that go across the road and stuff like that. So they'd activate and then deactivate and stuff like that. So it was like it was a constant thing. And I mean, I got there's a few of the stories that are in the book about it, things that we did over there, which again sound like movies, but actually really happened. But at the time, I didn't know how to drive, so I learned how to drive over there. There was an ex-copper. Worked for BMW driving school, who used to teach all the cops how to drive and like high speeds, J-turns and stuff like this. Now I'm driving a 7.5, never driven before in my life, ever. Driving a 7.5 ton armored vehicle, right? And I'm smashing it to the point it's almost on 2 wheels as I'm fucking turning and shit like this, because that's how they teach me. They're teaching me how to drive by ramming cars off the road, and we're traveling over 100 miles an hour whilst we're doing this shit. And I'm there going, 22 years old, I'm living the fucking dream here. This is the best thing I could ever fucking do in my entire life. It was fantastic. And it wasn't, so that was in 2004. I didn't get my driving license until 2008. So I've been driving for 4 years in Iraq, constantly smashing cars off the road. And then I had to sit down with an instructor who was already nervous as fuck. And I'm smashing it around roundabouts and fucking all sorts. He kept putting I was so frustrated because his civvy's just banging his brakes on and turning the wheel, or I was just like, no, leave me to drive.
Usually when we have these conversations with 3 of us on here, that we're usually able to sort of chip in with our experiences as a comparison. But like literally me and him just sat here going, well, I can't wedge any of the things I've done into here.
I don't know about that. I had a mission the other day where there was only one trolley left at Aldi, and there was me and this old woman. So I just thought, I had to go 100 miles an hour and barge her out of the way. Do you know what I mean? Similar sort of thing. You mentioned your book. I wanted to let you talk a little bit about that. For anyone listening on audio platforms or watching on the video platforms, I'll put an Amazon link to the book underneath wherever you are, wherever you're watching or listening to us. But yeah, talk us through the book.
Yeah, so the book itself, it's basically the first time that I've ever got the story of what actually happened in Lebanon on paper. Yeah. We did it before. We wrote a script. Americans have like bastardized the script and Americanized it, and now it resembles some sort of like 1980s Die Hard movie and stuff like that. So it was getting to the point where I was just like, we're losing this. Completely losing it now. I need to get this all down on paper, because it was going on for so long, and obviously memory starts to take over and you start losing it. So I was like, right, no, I need that story down on paper. So we did that, and then obviously at the same time as that, we got all the backstory in it. So I went into the nitty-gritty details. Everything that I had, I put into that book, of everything that happened all the way through that entire operation, how I went about it, to the extent of how we ended up developing into Pegasus afterwards, and obviously getting out of that job in the first place.
What's the title of the book? Just so
it's called Angel in the Shadows.
Angel in the Shadows. Yeah,
because at the time, everything that I did was working in the shadows. When I started in child recovery, obviously I was working in Afghanistan. One thing that I couldn't do is and especially because considering I was doing an operation going back to Cyprus, I couldn't let anybody know anything real about me at that time. So when I was speaking to the clients, they only ever knew me as Jay. They didn't know anything about my family. They didn't know how many kids I had. They didn't know where I'd been working, what my history was, or anything like that. Every detail, so I could just disappear after the case. And that's literally what I did. And I only got in communications with the mother of the child. I think it was like last year, just before I left Afghanistan, because I left Afghanistan end of July last year. And that was the first time that I'd spoken to her. And I actually spoke to the kid, because she's all grown up now, like as a young teenager, like, or mid-teens. So it was impressive to see that, and that was the first time that she had actually handed the kid to me to speak to me. Then she said thank you. That in itself, oh man, that destroyed me. That did. I didn't know how to deal with that sort of emotion.
So I need to ask you how old you are, because obviously this was, I'm trying to get some context about you squeezing all of this into first the 6 years and then everything you've done since then. So how old are you?
I'm 40 now.
Yeah, right, okay. So I just thought you must be 60 with all the stuff that goes on. It's that kind of weird thing, you know.
I bounced around a lot though, and like I've done maritime. I worked on the Prince of Abu Dhabi's yacht and things like this. So I bounced around, and I was always quite lucky because I'll get into what was happening very early. I was in the coup d'etat. Got into Mali when there was a coup d'etat out in Mali. I got in there just after it happened. So I was always getting into things first. And that's where I was able to get my experience. I was able to get to see what it was like if I wanted to stick around, and then I'd move on to something else. And that was what I wanted to do. I didn't want to be stuck in the same job continuously. When I got bored, I just moved. That was it. I wasn't interested in sticking around when I wasn't interested anymore. So I was quite lucky on that side of things. And those days you could do it. You can't do it so much these days.
So now you've got, you mentioned Pegasus Ops, which is the company that you've got. Talk us through what sort of, what services do the business offer, and what could people do?
So the whole idea and the concept of what we're trying to create is a free service for the actual family who's had a child abducted or taken away or kidnapped or gone missing, whether that be run away or what. The only way that we can turn it into a free service is by raising funds from the general public. The concept of what we're trying to create is the fact that no one has any financial pressure in doing this. So if the donators donate £2, I mean, I spend £4.50 on a coffee majority of mornings going into Starbucks. So if majority of people can donate £2, that £2 then combines together to be able to complete an operation. The family has no financial pressure. Then no one's going to these companies that are actually ripping people off and lining their pockets. And then obviously we've got the funds to be able to operate in every manner that we need to be able to operate. And we're able to complete the job how we're supposed to complete the job without having to cut corners or take risks that we don't need to do. So the concept being is that for an international case, the average cost will be anywhere between around £30,000. And the time frame would then be anywhere between 14 to 30 days. On average, that time frame will change the more cases we take on. But if 15,000 people donated £2 or 7,500 people donated £4, that's an international case. For a local case, the concept is that obviously we still raise the funds, but with the local cases, it's best to have a pot there where we can actually utilize that pot to go straight on a case as and when it happens. And the reason I say that is because we had a case back in April this year where a girl was groomed online to run away from home to be with her groomer. Within a 2-hour period, as soon as we had the phone call, within a 2-hour period, less than 2-hour period, we had a full profile of the groomer. We had all of his social media accounts. We had the pattern of how he was doing it, who he was targeting, where he was targeting it. We had his entire criminal record history. We had his address, and we had guys at the door ready to go through the door before the police had even started asking questions to the mother. And the only reason that we was able to do that is because I was able to make the calls, was because we had that pot. Right, I need this guy, and I need you to move into this location now. Start setting up. And then I was able to get the guys. I had guys down in London, I had guys in Germany that were analysing the internet and pulling everything from the internet so we could build up this profile. I did all of that from Iraq, and we was able to do it. That's how we can operate. It doesn't have to be me on the ground, you see. That's why we need that pot built, because we will act and we will chase leads and we will get to the bottom of everything a lot quicker. So that's the entire concept. So taking that into concept, imagine the fact that right now I've got 10 cases, 300 grand. If I got 150,000 people to donate £2, that's all of those cases that we can complete. You get to the point where you get 1 million people to donate £2, and then we could literally put permanent units out in South Africa, America, Australia, Canada, mainland Europe, and obviously the UK, and we can just push out operations continuously. The The whole goal of what I'm trying to do is to get to the point where I can get 4 to 6 cases at least every single month, because on the first year of just getting 4 cases, then we will change numbers and people will start to pay attention to us. And when I say people, I mean governmental authorities. They have to start recognizing what we're doing. They have to start doing something about it. They have to change the way that they act when it comes to this. And they have to start working alongside us so we can actually do it. And technically what we do is create the people's army. This is the people taking control of our own children because nobody else is looking for our children. And I'm not kidding when I say nobody else is looking. The police are waiting for phone calls continuously.
Yeah.
That's all they're doing. That's why they put it out to the public. If you've seen this, give us a call. Let us know. There might be a reward in it. And that's about it.
So if people want to donate, what we'll do is we'll leave links to all your social media and your where you're raising funds. We'll leave a link below into the book and everything. So if people want to help, they can do. Thank you so much, Jay, for coming on. Thanks for telling your story. Hopefully we can get this message out there and we can get more
fantastic,
people
honestly,
to support the campaign. The Lock-In podcast is me and Baz in our virtual pub just talking to whoever's turned up at our table. Now, this is definitely one of those situations where if we went home from the pub, we'd either think we were pissed and this didn't happen, or that the person who sat down was just taking the piss out of 2 bearded guys in the pub. So thanks for coming on. Thanks for coming on. Really, really enjoyed your company. Really enjoyed your story. Let's see what we could do for you. So it just leaves me to say, like, if you've enjoyed it, subscribe wherever you're watching, wherever you're listening. Thanks, Jay. Good luck with things for the future. And if you're watching on YouTube, stay tuned. We'll have a little Q&A after this. So
perfect.
Thanks everyone for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks very much. See you later. Ta-da. Well, right. There we go. Right, we're back. Sorry. Too busy enjoying watching that. I've been editing that for a long time. So I've heard that story over and over again. Still fascinates me, still amazes me, and still love the idea of setting up a company that means that families don't have to remortgage the house if the worst happened. So hope everybody enjoyed that. The comment section's been on fire. Lively, so if you do have any questions for Jay, let us know, because here he comes now. Hello, Jay. Hey, Jay.
How you doing, guys?
How's it going, mate? You all right?
Yeah. Watching that, I was just thinking, bloody hell. That's going to be one of the best ones I've done yet.
He's sitting there going, he sounds decent, this guy, doesn't he?
I'm as amazed now watching that back as I was on the morning that we spoke to you. I mean, it's an incredible story, and genuinely hope that, like, anything that comes out, anything we can do for it, and anything anybody else can do, just to push you on.
Yeah, definitely appreciate it. The thing I loved about watching that is the fact that when I'm talking, I wasn't looking at your reactions, because obviously I'm just flowing with the story and telling you how things went and all this sort of stuff. And watching your 2 reactions when I was talking, it was hilarious. You're like,
I remember that, and like I say, I was a bit unnerved because it was 10 o'clock in the morning. I was drinking coffee, not prosecco or beer or whatever like we usually do on this show. But yeah, just I realised myself when I was editing, I just spent the whole time going like that. But it worked. Do you know what I mean? Normally on these, there's a lot more interaction and stuff, but it's not about us. It was about listening to you, listening to your story, and thanks to everybody who's come to see you. But and I just want to say that a couple of times when I took the piss about Aldi and stuff like that, that's just maybe like I'm not. Detracting from anything that was in the story.
No, of course.
It was just banter. It was just I wanted to keep it lighthearted and just just go with it and that. And I was just fascinated that, and I said this a couple of times, in finding out kind of about you and and your downtime and things like that. So so that's all good. So yeah, we did mention the book, and turns out I think I've got one of the last copies of the hardback, because this arrived today.
You did, yeah.
This arrived today, so apologies for only having read the first paragraph. But yeah, another thing before we go any further is I always put graphics together for this, and I use an app that kind of cartoons you. So I hope this comes out on camera. Can you see? You can kind of see. Look,
I've seen these on the site. Yeah.
There's Baz, and there's me.
Yeah.
And I know you have friends in high
Yeah.
places and stuff who know what they're doing on computers. But did you get them to tinker around with this software? Because look at this movie star. Who's he? Look at that. I didn't know, mate. I didn't know that your technology influence stretched as far as this app. Look at him.
That's
What a handsome man he is.
You got to send me that, I tell you. I'll put it as my profile picture.
So, mate, we've had loads of questions coming through. And one of the first ones I'm going to ask you is from Kathy. Now, I have to thank Kathy Stewart because you hadn't cropped up on my For You page. So Kathy Stewart, who's watching, she's in the chat section, and who we met on Saturday, she pointed me in your direction and said, this guy might be good as a podcast guest. So thank you, because he was brilliant.
Still is.
Her first question
Thanks,
was,
Kathy.
do you have backup? When you go on these operations, do you have backup, or is it just you out there on your own?
No. We're on our own. Everything's 100% on our own. We don't announce ourselves when we're going in the country. As an example, the last case I was on, no one even knew that I was there, apart from my operator on the ground. It wasn't until I started to get into trouble and I started to get followed, then I got back in touch with the guys in the UK, and I said, right, time to track me. There's nothing they could have done apart from track me to my last location if anything happened to me. But again, it's one of the risks that we take. As we grow, as we get bigger, as we can get more teams and we've got more finances to put more people on the ground, the plan is to get more support on the ground, which is completely separated from the actual operation. But we've got complete communications and complete correspondence on knowing where each other is at all times. So if, for example, I was to get captured, or one of my guys was to get captured, we can get a team to go to that location, and if we have to, we kick the doors down and go get our people out of there. That's the plan for the future. But up until now, for the last 9 years, we're on our own. I've always been on my own.
I was going to say, because obviously with political protocol, you can't claim to be conducting an operation under any flag, can you?
No. Definitely, it's not only that though. It's the fact that a lot of the time, whenever you go into these countries, you get if I was to announce myself in Lebanon and they've got this big burly Brit ex-military running around their streets and causing chaos, then they're not going to be too happy with it. They'll just kick us out of the country straight away. We don't announce it, and we go and cover stories purposely so we can gather the information and develop a plan without any hindrance, without anybody watching us, without anyone knowing anything we're doing. It has to be completely covered. Otherwise, it won't work.
That's amazing.
So
Another question we had was from Julian, which was, if you dislike your customer, does the risk you take lessen? Now, I'm sure
so
you're
being quite close protection
for that, but does it change the way you think about something if you think that the person who's hired you is a bit of a dick?
Nah, I mean, the people are not people when it comes to a situation like that. They are a mission. It's a different mentality. You've got your client. Your client is just a client. It's the fact that you have been told to protect this person. You will protect him at all costs, no matter whether you like him or not. It doesn't change anything because we're all about completing the mission rather than anything else. If that makes sense. Does it make sense?
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
It's like you're disconnected from it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
When you go back to the accommodation or something like that, you call him a cunt if it's a cunt, like. But outside of that, it's just the mission.
Yeah.
Your task is to do this. Do this.
We just had a question come through from Daniel Panther. I'm just going to show off with my graphics here now. But there you go. A local authority is more willing to help when they find out what your purpose is.
Depends on where you are. Depends on what your purpose is. Obviously, different operations have different purposes. If when I went to Turkey, for example, I had the Turkish police. They were more than willing to help because obviously they understood we was looking for a kid that had been kidnapped from Cyprus by a company that sells themselves as doing child recovering. We had Interpol red notices, so I was flashing them around. They thought I was Interpol, so they helped me. They put covert teams out. They drove me around to places, introduced me to people, things like that. More than willing to help. Different situations, doesn't matter where you go. Sometimes we have to analyze if they're going to hinder us, and we have to analyze if they're going to help us. We will utilize them as best as we possibly can to complete the mission. If we can't utilize them and we think they're going to hinder it, then we stay away from them. So it bounces dependent on what we're actually doing in that country.
A question that's just jumped the queue because it's my wife that's asked it. Oh, not that one. That's not my
Look
wife.
at this.
Yeah, there you go. Do you say no to cases ever, and if so, why?
Yeah. So saying no to a case is primarily on a parental abduction. A parental abduction itself, you have to figure out who is on the right side of life in general, not just the law, but on life in general. I've had clients trying to manipulate me to doing a job for them. I think we spoke about this previously afterwards. I had a client once who calls me up and he says that I have to take on his case and I have to go and find his wife and get his child back to the country that they're in. Otherwise, I will never have penance for my sins in Iraq and Afghanistan. And I was like, straight away on the phone, I was like, are you sure you want to go down this road with me? You can't take on a case like that because you've got to figure out who the narcissist is. You've got to think about who's manipulating, think about why the parent is actually. And we investigate it all anyway when it comes to the entire prior investigation. So it's easy to figure out. But when someone comes out to it straight away and says something like that, yeah, we're done. Cheers, thanks. So those cases I will say no to.
So Mike's reading.
Yeah, no, I'm just reading. I'm trying to be flash and use my bloody graphics instead of just read the ones that I wrote down on my pad. Let's go old school. Kathy says, when you were talking about being in the army and stuff, Kathy again says, do you think wayward kids should do a stint in the army? Or
it goes both ways.
Or do you think the national service should still be a thing?
To a certain extent, I do. I believe that the younger generation going into the military and at least going through basic training and phase 2 training, maybe for a year within the army, I think it would be good for a lot of kids, especially wayward kids and everything like that. But at the same time as that, I'm conflicted because the army is not for everybody. And if you was to do national service and you was to create a military that's based on conscription, we'd end up with an army like in Cyprus where soldiers are not given ammunition and they're standing on the border unable to defend themselves against the Turks. You don't want to jeopardize the strength of the army that we've got with the minimal numbers that we've got, because we are very strong. And as a typical example, and I love using this on my TikTok, is the fact that the Royal Marine Commandos just kicked the US Marines' arse before they even hit halftime, and I love that concept because it's amazing.
Story, that is.
Now, if you've got a conscript army, and you're going into an exercise like that, yeah, we get smashed. So it's both ways. I think they should have the discipline. They should have the restructure in their lives. Me, if I didn't go in the military, God knows where I'll be right now. It destroyed everything that I was. It took out all my habits that I had when I was young and got me out of the troubles that I was getting into. And it did turn you into a man. On that aspect, you became a lot more responsible for yourself and things like this. So I do think every child should go into that, especially when it comes to, like, we've got so much knife crimes and all that sort of stuff and gun crimes these days, county lines and all that sort of stuff. Get him in the military, it'll change all that. It would. But again, we can't lose that strength because that's something to be proud of. Absolutely.
Jessica, who's in the States, has said that how can we help fund your company besides direct donations? So obviously there is direct donations, and if you go to Pegasus Ops website, you can find there's a place there that you can contribute to the Just Giving. If you have come to this via my website, if you go back there, the link's in there as well under this episode as well, and it's going to stay in there. That's just going to shift to previous episodes. So if you're ever struggling for it there, but yeah, if you got a Pegasus Ops website there, you can do the donations. But Jessica's asking, how can we help besides direct donations?
Yeah, so we sell merchandise. All proceeds from the merchandise goes towards cases. The merchandise consists of t-shirts, hoodies, baseball caps. We've got cups and stuff like that coming into it as well. We've got different designs coming up, and you ever get on my TikTok lives and you've got ideas for memes on the back of it and all that sort. We'll throw them in there. We've got no problem with that. We'll also put it in a US flag onto a lot because majority of our followers are now from the States. So merchandise is a big one. We've got Patreon. Patreon's something that we're putting focus into right now. I think we've got about 26 or 27 subscribers on that at the moment. But on Patreon, you get exclusive access into my mind. So what you see on a podcast, that's not even as crazy as shit gets when it comes to Patreon.
I'm going to become a patron tomorrow.
Yeah. So we got some stuff up there at the moment, and it talks about like when I'm on an operation, my thoughts and feelings when things that happen. Like I spoke about when I started to get followed on that last operation. I spoke about a few things, the thoughts that I was having all the way through. But what it's gonna build up to is we'll be doing certain lives. As long as we're gonna put video footage and live footage up onto the Patreon, as long as it doesn't compromise the operation. But when it comes to cases, we're going to be doing videos and talking about each case, which is where a lot of people ask me for the proof of the cases that we've done. But there's loads of proof out there, news articles about the cases and all that sort of stuff. And basically what I'm doing is going through the entire timeline of the case, showing what we find, showing the news articles and how it conflicts on what we were saying and how things were leaked, and talking about the entire operation all the way through. So you get to see the full picture from open source, as well as the sneaky beaky shit that we've been doing. That's what Patreon's going to be doing, so it's quite a big one. The book's another one. Sold out on hardback books last night, which was pretty mega. I actually lit a sparkler for that one. Left over from Bonfire Nut, of course.
Did you actually light a sparkler for that?
No, Jen up. I did a TikTok live and I lit a sparkler and I held the sparkler on my TikTok live. This is how we celebrate.
That's I've got a question, just as being an avid watcher as well. Me and Mike spoke about this recently when we were together, just saying, is there any fear that because you're more public persona now, that there's any kind of retribution or possible because of the things you're getting into now?
100%, yeah, without a doubt. But we've got SOPs in place, standard operating procedures in place. We've got methods in place. We've got a lot of things, a lot of preparation done. When it comes to operations, obviously it's going to compromise me on operations the bigger that I get, but that's why I've got a team, and that's why we're setting up a training academy to pass down all of my knowledge to future operators, and then that's how we can spread across the world as well. Obviously I can still mess around on cases and take cases on, without a doubt, because in comparison, when it comes to the population of the world and the amount of followers that we've got, it's minuscule, you know what I mean? So I can still operate as it stands at the moment, but it depends on how far it goes. Retribution and all that, yeah. I mean, it's always there. I'm always looking out for shit when I'm out. I'm the guy that drives down the road and purposely misses my turn because I think there's a car following me, and then the missus would be sitting next to me going, no, you missed a turn, and I'll be like, oh yeah, silly me, as I'm fucking doing 4 left turns to try to find out if this guy's following me or not. And I continuously do it, so I'm always aware.
Yeah, I have a similar scenario, but not for the same reason, just because I've forgotten to turn.
It's just because you're old, man.
Exactly.
I've been doing it years though. When I came back from Lebanon, it was crazy because I would literally walk around outside my house in Lebanon, and I'd look at places. I'd survey my own house. So I'd come back from the pub, and I'd be walking up and down the streets, looking into cars where I would put my car to survey my own house and stuff like this. I'd see strangers in the pub and stuff like that. I'd confront them there and then. And just to make sure that the thing that I learned about Iraq was present yourself as a hard target, and they're going to think twice about actually coming at you. And I got no problem doing that. No, zero problem doing that.
So we've got a question from Joe. So the book shocked and brought tears to their eyes, all emotions. And any plans to turn it into a film?
Yeah. There's a company I've been working with out in LA. Now, I don't know if they're messing me around or not, but we've been working on it for about 4 years. We've also just had some great news. Last week it was. We're waiting for a finalization on it. But there's a specific director who's going to be releasing a movie very soon. He's already done a trilogy on a red pill and blue pill movie.
Okay.
Who might be interested in
optioning
the script. you can't figure out who it is.
I don't watch movies.
Another
movie you're talking about, but that's like a quiz question to me. And I was like, no, pass. Anyway, I get your point.
Yeah. So we're hopeful for it. No doubt we're still pushing for it no matter what. Even if this guy in America is messing us around, I'm still going to push for it for other people. Personally, again, like I said about when we did the podcast, they've Americanized it really badly, and I'm not happy about that because I love the British side of things. I love how we come across in movies and the way that we do movies, so I'd love to go British, I would.
Well, I was going to say, because the story's brilliant, but obviously transferring it to movies means that they want bums on seats, so they're gonna sensationalize it, try and find some actor that doesn't look like you or is more well known, just sort of like, you know, to fulfill that role. So yeah, it's always a risky business, isn't it?
Oh, without a doubt it is, yeah. And I mean, it has to be done. It's no different to Andy McNabb writing Bravo 2-0. He got ripped apart for it. There has to be that dramatic, what would you call it? Not exploitation, but, you know, the add-ons and all that to throw it out there. It is what it is, but it will get the story out there, but no matter what.
I can imagine a movie, though, would get you a lot of the way towards funding targets and things like that, you know, even if it's just a percentage of what came from the movie. So you've got that trade-off, haven't you? You've got this, like, you know, I'll accept a bit of Americanizing bullshit of the movie if it means that we can actually go out and you know, save kids' lives and reunite kids with the parents and so on. So
yeah, absolutely. I mean, at the end of the day, as long as they do it right and it's successful, it'll be fantastic because we've got plans for 3 books. I've actually got plans for a 4th at the moment, and we've got plans for 3 movies. So as long as they do it right and we get those second 2 movies, then we will literally boom in child recovery. And that's the whole idea of it. That's why we did it in the first place.
So I just
saw Gerard Butler were playing.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say.
Gerard Butler's too old.
Tom Cruise is too small.
He's miles older than your picture looks anyway.
I want that picture. You got to send it to me.
I'll send it to you, man. I click the button. It's just one of those apps where you click a button and it goes like that. And in mine, I just look like, you know, just look like the same idiot but younger. And then I seen you. I was like, wow, that's quite a job there.
Hey, listen, even if Tom Cruise plays you, I'll still go and watch it.
Yeah, for sure, yeah. I'd go watch it still.
Oh, God. Wow. Sorry, the screen just disappeared. Right, another question then. We've got... Kathy says, how many rescues have been done and what's the success rate?
17 rescues in the last 9 years. And that out of that, there's 5 in the last year. 3 of those we was able to provide for free because we raised funds from the general public, and 100% success rate to date.
Wow. Sorry, I'm too far.
We can do a lot more.
I'll say it again. Wow. That's amazing.
Now, we can do a lot more. I mean, it is amazing what we've done so far, but we can do a lot more. All we've got to do is get those funds in. And
yeah, so it's budget-based.
It'll be mad. It is. Like when we did the podcast, I had 10 pending cases. I've currently got 14 pending cases now.
Yeah.
So since we last spoke, another 4 came in. And that doesn't count on how many kidnapped kids I get tagged in every day. It's like 10 to 20 kids I get tagged in every single day. When Chloe Smith went missing from Australia, I got about 100 emails. The Moti brothers went missing from South Africa. I had fucking easily over 100 emails for them as well. If we had teams in those 2 locations, we could have worked on that straight away.
So
and the pause for effect there, is it?
I know on my podcast, on our podcast, I know me being quiet isn't a good thing, but I just keep sitting there going, see, I'm enjoying watching this podcast whilst I'm in the middle of it, which is quite
yeah.
I need to remember that my job on this podcast is to speak as well as listen.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, during the podcast, as I noted, we do interject quite readily when we've had other guests. And with you, we were literally like, I don't even know where I was supposed to sort of wedge myself into this conversation. Yeah.
Oh, dear.
We were just a couple, basically, we were just a couple of like old fanboys just sat in the corner of our fictional pub going, oh, no,
well, it's changed now. Literally, all we're doing is interviewing bearded fellas after this who have no purpose in life. So we'll be fine with
that. Jessica has said, spot that one on. Excuse me. Do your services stop once the child's rescued?
Great question, yeah.
Nah. Families that we actually return children to, they become part of our extended family. The best description, like the best example that I can give you will be the kid that we got back from County Lines. first of all, we took him hiking to show him that there is a different mentality, different way of life. We've showed him different ways of life physically by showing him different people and the way that by taking him to different places where different people live to show him that sort of stuff as well. We go through a mentoring program. We got him into a boxing academy. He's currently on an amateur boxing team. He's recently been looking for work, part-time work, to start making money. So rather than going into county lines to make money, we found him work to be able to start working part-time, making his own money to be able to sort himself out, things like that. They're part of our family. They'll be part of our family for life. It's the same with any other case. When it comes to mental health, we've got support from military, veteran mental health charities. We've got support from gyms. We've got obviously the boxing academies, adventure training places, things like this. They support us 100% to be able to keep moving around and helping the kids out in anything they need. We even took them to the beach and we took them to the fun fair and stuff like that. Gave him a day out, completely different, away from his normal routine and the areas that he was in. So it's we take it seriously, like.
I'm just going to pause again.
Yeah,
Oh, my hero. Right. Let's get a bit more of it. Yeah. So, Adam, who is a gardener, who we also met on Saturday. So what's the most dangerous area that you've had to go to?
So the Ukraine, on the independent state of Donetsk, which is what it's classed as now, which is where the main war between Russia and the Ukraine are. There's actually front lines, trenches dug and everything down there. And Lebanon, they're probably the two most dangerous places that I've been to do a rescue. It's crazy out there, like. Come on, guys, you got to keep up with me. You got to keep up with me on this.
Jill's changed the pace. So, what do you do to relax?
Thanks. That's more like us.
Xbox. that's
you
pretty
tell
much
me
it.
you play Call of Duty. If you tell me you can play Call of Duty, is that what you do?
Yeah.
Well,
I've been playing Call of Duty since the first one ever came out.
Same.
Me and my best mate from school, where we've known each other since we was 10 years old. We still play every day, or at least every day that we can. At least half an hour on that day, Call of Duty every time.
So what's your kill death ratio? That's all I want to know.
You've never been killed.
It's 0.21. 0.21. It's not very good.
I reckon
it's the kids these days, they've got all this technology they use, and we're still going old school without using any technology and aimbot and shit.
Yeah, I know what you're up to. Angel in the shadows. You just hide everywhere, don't you? Hide and pick people off as they walk past.
I don't care what anyone says. Camping is a valid tactic. 100%, no matter what anyone says.
I just see you like dressed as a tree like that.
Yeah, but you know what? Quick scopers can fuck off.
Oh mate, I hate them. Seriously, I really do. One shot and it's just like, nah, it's over. No.
Yeah.
I'm lost in this conversation because
I
bought.
No, I figured that because you thought that we could dress like a tree.
That's what I'd do. That's what I'd do. Surely you can pull one down and walk around with it. I had Call of Duty years ago on, I think it was PlayStation 2 or 3. Anyway, I had the Call of Duty, and it just, for me, I haven't got the. I don't know what you need to do this, but you know the missions where you go a certain point and then you go through a checkpoint, and then if you die, you only go back to that checkpoint.
Yeah.
There was one of them. There was one of them that I think about 15 times I'd got just close to this checkpoint and then got killed like 15 times in the same place. So I just decided that one for me.
That was it.
I was like, nah, forget it.
There's nothing like determination to get through. Don't worry about determination. I'm not doing it anymore. I'm not doing it.
Yeah, it can't be asked. I'm going to play solitaire on the computer. It's easy.
Yeah.
So what else have we got? Sorry, I'm trying to get her now. Joe from us. Is it Jessica? Yeah, so Jessica's saying, besides donations or purchases of merchandise, are you looking for any other type of help? And I know you've said before, it's about publicity for you, isn't it? It's just getting the word out
100%.
and getting more people to know what you're trying to do. Because the more people that know what you do, the more people can help.
Yeah, definitely. Anyone that knows anybody, I don't know, large creators on social media. If you know any famous people in real life, stuff like that, all it takes is one endorsement for someone who's got 1 million, 2 million followers. It can change the game massively. So it's stuff like that, pushing it out there, sharing content. It's important.
I'm just going to go back to a question earlier, and it's literally flew by in the comments, but I didn't catch who said it. Someone said to ask you about time travel, and it's veering off course. So I guess this is something that you do on your live.
I time travel every night.
Ah, okay. Do you want to expand on that a bit?
All of us have a time travel machine. And every night we can time travel forward in time at least 8 hours. I believe time travel. I'm a big fan of the theory of time travel in itself, because when it comes to time travel, if it exists in the future, that means it exists now. And there's things that have been found throughout history to actually validate the fact that time travel might exist.
Time travel does exist, because if you go up to space, the Earth's spinning is something to do with the angles of it. I saw something on it. It's like, technically, if you go up to space, your watch will be different to somebody who's stayed on Earth because of the amount
so
of
that was
versus you have and stuff.
The atomic clock proved that if you're higher in the altitude and you're traveling fast, in comparison to being stationary on the ground, the stationary on the ground will go slower. No, will go faster than what it is actually when it's traveling fast in the sky.
So
the atomic clock's proven that, didn't
if
they?
you could go in a plane for long enough without refueling, then that's so it's possible.
Yeah, but it's minuscule in comparison to going towards the speed of light. It's very complicated. But that's not the time travel I'm thinking about. I'm thinking about the time travel, like old school stuff.
Like
when you're in a movie and you're literally carrying one of those suitcases and you flick a few switches and then you're back in time. How cool would that be?
I'd much rather do it on a DeLorean, I've got to be honest.
Yeah, to be fair, I would. But going 88 miles an hour, I mean, come on, let's go a bit faster.
Yeah. Well, do you know what?
We'll get Michaela's car. Michaela's in the comment section there. We'll get her car.
Hey, look,
she leaves me standing.
No, I mean, the DeLorean seemed very complicated to me. Do you know what I mean? It was like,
the DeLorean seemed complicated.
Yeah, well, it did. You had to make it like a giant dodgem and time exactly when you were going to hit the thing that there was going to be some lightning. It was like, that's not the most practical way of traveling time, is it?
I don't understand why there was always power failure in the DeLorean. It's really weird.
Well,
there was always electrical faults in the
DeLoreans were crap. That's why.
So the theory behind that was it a gigawatt of energy they had to supply, which only lightning could do?
I think it was 1.2.
Yeah, there you go.
Roughly.
Good. Yeah. No, Mr. I don't watch movie buffs over here knows exactly what he's talking about.
Right. I haven't watched movies since 1983. I know that was longer than that, so I kind of ruined my own joke by saying the wrong year. Here we go. I think towards the end of the podcast, this is great. This is the level of conversation we want to get into. So, Jill, who is another person?
We're going down this road now, aren't we?
Yeah,
exactly. Well, Jill is another person who we met on Saturday. I mean, this sounds like we had, we had a massive event at Wembley Arena. It's just so happens that 3 of the people we met for the first time on Saturday are in the comment section. But yeah, what period would you travel to if you could travel in time?
I don't know. I go to a lot of abbeys. These abbeys are anywhere between 800 to 1,000 years old. I would definitely want to go back to Roman times because I ain't been put on no cross. But when it comes to like these abbeys and everything, I go to these places and I always wonder what they would have been like when they're all fully functional, people around and everything like that. That's probably when about 1,000 years ago I'd go. I would, because that'd be amazing.
It is amazing when you walk around those things and you think that 800 years ago, they could build that, because in your head you go, what was life like 800 years ago, and you just think, well, everyone was just like backward, and you know, you just, well, I do anyway. You just think like, well, all the technological advancements that have happened even since my granddad was born, you just think that 800 years ago there must, but then you look around at like, you know, chapels and, you know, these really, you know, you go and see like massive buildings that were built 800 years ago, and you just think, well, they were capable of all that kind of stuff, and they were, you know. They didn't moan that a building took, you know, if a building took more than 8 months to build, they didn't moan about it. You know what I mean? You've got like,
you know, I mean, they take hundreds of years to build, half of them, right?
You know what I mean? It's like,
also, they weren't putting a tender out to the, you know, trying to get the cheapest tender to build the biggest building, were they?
Yeah, fair one.
well,
it just amazes me now, because if you go on.
No, you go.
Yeah, so if you watch Game of Thrones and stuff like that, and you look at that sort of world, and it's classed as a fantasy world and all this sort of stuff. But if you actually go down to these abbeys and everything like that, and you see how much stuff is actually around you, you would have literally lived in a world where you would see stuff like that all the time. And I think that's amazing.
Do you know what? I really wish I watched Game of Thrones, because a lot of it was filmed about an hour and a half away from where I live. So I'd be like, I'd be actually interested in.
It was Belfast, wasn't it?
Game of Thrones is amazing. If you haven't watched it, you got to watch
on
it.
the Causeway Coast.
Yeah. But yeah, it's one of those things. It's obviously just changes that just slightly. It's why Masons was so highly regarded, because they were the most skilled people in their day, weren't they?
Yeah, that's right. It just bothers me that we got houses like we've got right now, and we could have lived in places like that.
Yeah,
that bothers me. That does.
Right, it's getting to that time now where this is. It's time for us to wrap up. Listen, I need to really thank you, Jay, not only for giving us an hour of your time to do the recorded version of what you've done, but also agreeing to come along and do the Q&A. Look, you've got 2 more fans here, and there's loads more people as well who are seeing you for the first time. So. It might only be a little bit, but we are spreading the word for you. But also, for those that don't know, we are here every week. But this is the first one we've done like this, and we've only just gone onto audio platforms. So, if you want to share the podcast,
please do.
Get along to it. We are now, as of today, where's my list? As of today, we are on the bit that you saw there, the audio version of that thing that we just watched together. Is on Apple Podcasts, Audible, Amazon Music, Podbean. It will probably be on Google Podcasts as soon as they approve us. So, yeah, if you see it, find it, share it, get the message out there. So get Jay's message out there. If you've enjoyed watching us, we are back again next week with basically what we try and do is get people on who are ordinary people with extraordinary stories to tell, and obviously Jay epitomizes that. Next week we've got Tina and Max on. Tina is a human female and Max is a male dog. Basically Tina suffers from epileptic seizures, and her dog alerts her to the fact. And when she's going to have a seizure, he's a big old German Shepherd. He gets under her arm and he helps her down to the ground gently and gets underneath her and things like that. And I'm not going to ruin the shock that was halfway through the podcast, but you do want to see it anyway. So, yeah, if you are new, please follow us wherever you are, whether it's on YouTube or whether you go and follow us on one of the audio platforms. Because obviously I know it's a lot easier to listen to us on the train than it is to have to look at these faces. So yeah, please do follow us, and if you do find us on an audio platform, share it, get the word out of what Jay is trying to do with Pegasus Ops.
Mike,
thanks everyone for contributing in the comment section. Yep,
just quick one. So, which number of podcast are we on now? What podcast?
27. This is.
So, I just need to say we've done 27 podcasts, and this is the first one I think we've done where we'd love it to share that, because it's a really important message. I'm not suggesting you're the most worthy person we've ever had on here, but as of this moment, yeah. So, but
the rest of them.
But I think
they're not watching.
I think the cause that you're doing, and particularly the way that you've done it sort of like, from your own standpoint, and you're creating a system where you can get funding for it. And like you said, if you get 150,000 people at £2 a pop, or 1 million people at £1, you could do this for everybody for free. And I think it's an important thing to put out there, because and also it's something that I'd never even, the world that I live in and most of us live in, this isn't even something that affects anybody on a day-to-day basis. And you're doing something which is affecting a small number of people, but in really important cases, really important, you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, 100%. I appreciate
it. If this is your first experience of Jay and what he does, if you go to Pegasus-Ops, is that right?
Yeah.
The website .co.uk, is it?
Yeah, but .com.
Pegasus-Ops.com.
Yeah.
Or if you're struggling if you go to, I know mine better, so daddancer.co.uk/the lock-in, all the links to everything are in there. So to Jay's book, to the website, to his LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, the fundraising page, the links to everything are all in there. So if you go along to that, I think I've got a little overlay on that. Hold on a second.
Of course you have.
Hold on a second. Here we go. This is about following us on our audio platforms, but there it is. So daddancer.co.uk/the lock-in. If you go there, all the links to everything that we've been talking about, and all the links to everything that we're trying to help Jay with is on there. So it just remains to say, Jay, mate, you're an absolute legend. You're
mate, seriously.
Thanks to Kathy for putting us in touch with you, because you know what TikTok's like. There's billions of people on TikTok. We might not have crossed paths had it not been for Kathy, and I'm so greatful.
And also, I'd love to do this again. We get an update on the progress of how Pegasus is going as well.
Oh, 100%. We got a lot of things in the pipeline that you're going to want to hear about.
Perfect.
Mate. And don't get me wrong, me and Baz are going to be on the telly in the spring. So when we're on the telly and we've got loads of followers, we'll get you back on. So we'll be able to do a better job for you on that one.
Absolutely.
Sorry, Adam's just said, are you on Instagram? But the links are all in the bottom, aren't they?
The links are all on the website.
Yeah.
I said that.
Yeah.
Right. Thanks very much for your time, Jay.
Thanks
stick around for a sec. We'll have a chat once we've gone off air. Thanks, everyone, for contributing
Thanks, everyone,
in the comment
guys.
section. Don't forget, spread the word. Get on the website, share his website, share this podcast, share the audio podcast.
Go watch his lives, do the whole lot.
To get the message out. Get on TikTok, follow his lives, share everything. Get the message of this out there, because the more people who know about this, the more people who can contribute a small amount of money to get this done. It's like a massive cooperative of people who care that are going to make this happen. So the more people who see it, the better chance we've got of making it happen. So thanks, Jay. Thanks, Baz. Thanks, everyone in the comment section. We'll see you again next time.